The fanbase may be divided on them, but avatars have become an integral part of the Fire Emblem experience. Not counting Shadows of Valentia as it's a remake, we haven't had a Fire Emblem without an avatar in 15 years. But that doesn't mean we've had the same level of control the entire time. While you can change a lot about Robin and Corrin, Byleth, Shez and Alear are only minimally ours to mess around with. You can change their birthday, you can change their name, and to get to the topic of today's video, their gender. And while those previous two really don't matter, this one definitely does. Not only does it in most games open up a whole new world of potential dating partners for you, there are also other factors impacted by this choice. Let's start with the first avatar of this streak, Kris from New Mystery of the Emblem, because unfortunately there is no Marcella to go along with Mark in the Blazing Blade. Ever since, it has often been the case that the male avatar is sort of portrayed as the canonical pick, although this would change a little over time. Kris was definitely prior to that gradual change though, as the cover art and really all artwork for the game only portrays male Kris alongside Marth. It shouldn't really be a surprise that in many things Kris was a trendsetter. You can for example change their hairstyle with 13 different options available depending on the gender you picked. The additional hairstyles unlocked throughout the game are shared between both though. There are also 10 different face types exclusively available for both genders, and it really shouldn't be a huge shock that they have different supports available as well. Both get the exact same support bonuses, but this doesn't translate to base conversations, which do actually differ a lot between gender, to the point female Kris actually has several that turn romantic, while male Kris does not. Nowadays, it's usually the other way around, I'd argue. Most blatant avatar worshippers are female these days, but in New Mystery, it's really exclusively female Kris who gets shown any romantic interest. But anyway, more importantly, 0 conversations are locked to one of the two Krises. But the really important thing to keep in mind when selecting your Kris's gender is the fact that their available classes change depending on gender. Both Krises can become Cavaliers, Archers and Mages, while only female Kris can select Myrmidon and Pegasus Knight, while male Kris has exclusive access to Mercenary, Knight and Fighter. The interesting outlier here is Myrmidon, which is the only one of the 5 to not actually be gender exclusive in the game, as both Navarre and Rad are Myrmidons in New Mystery despite being male. I suppose they wanted to balance things out and didn't think having an avatar who's a healer was a good idea. This has proven to be the first and last time that there is a starting class difference between male and female avatars, if you don't count Corrin's Nor Prince and Princess class, which are virtually the same thing with a different name. Because in Awakening, Robin always starts as a tactician, but that doesn't mean gender shouldn't be factored in when talking about classes. After all, reclassing is the name of the game in Awakening, and once again the different Robins have different classes available. Male Robin can exclusively become a Barbarian or Berserker, Fighter or Warrior, War Monk or War Clerk, and Dread Fighter, while female Robin can be a Pegasus or Falcon Knight, Dark Flyer, Troubadour and Valkyrie, Priest and Clerk, and of course a Bride. Small step from that last one to the supports in this game, which are actually surprisingly similar, seeing as this is a game so heavily focused on dating and pairing units up. Many supports only differ in small ways, and the only real change is the availability of an S support, which can actually be considered a downgrade from New Mystery, where many base conversations were quite different depending on gender. There are a few exceptions though. All child units have completely different supports per Robin, as do the characters that can only support Robin and no one else. But then, there are also 2 more exceptions, Chrom and Longplay. Those may at first sight feel a little random, but they're pretty decently explainable. Chrom is the main character of the story, and I'm willing to bet like at least 70% of female Robins end up with him, so I can understand putting in the extra effort to make sure female Robins build up with him is more natural. Not that actually happens, Chrom just wanders into the woman's bathroom, but it's about the intention. While you could argue Lucina should have been the equivalent for male Robin, I think the fact she's Robin's best friend's child, who is introduced relatively late, makes her less of a shoo-in for such a unique role. It is worth pointing out though that the list of only Robin supporters consists of more women than men, so that balances things out. And as for Longplay, it's an essential part of his character that he's uncomfortable speaking to and around women, so having that illusion be shattered by having him either being completely cool with female Robin or also skittish around male Robin would have made no sense. I will say though, I've always been a little surprised Farja doesn't have a unique conversation per gender as well, seeing as her obsession with Robin definitely has different undertones depending on gender, but then again, it's not like the current situation doesn't work. While I don't want to go too deep into this, out of fear of turning this video into a character analysis, I do want to mention that male and female Robin also have pretty different personalities. They're not opposites or anything, but male Robin is calmer and more level-headed, while female Robin is more fiery and has an edge to her that clearly comes through in their exclusive supports. Furthermore, they of course again have different facial options, voices and hair, and Robin's gender also impacts Morgan's gender. But as far as super impactful or somewhat surprising differences go, this is about it for Awakening. Which brings us to Fates, which actually has an interesting way of marketing and profiling their two avatars. This game is really the first to put their male and female avatars on fairly equal footing as far as marketing and canonicity go, and a possible reason for that is to portray both their Hoshido and Nor allegiances equally. Most often, male Robin was portrayed as having chosen Hoshido, while female sided with Nor. While Fire Emblem Engage is very careful not to mention which side Emblem Corrin has chosen, only that she has chosen, the fact female Robin made it in, rather than male, says enough about how female Corrin has a different standing with IS compared to say female Robin. It should be said though that this equal treatment has mostly come after the game has been out. Prior to release, most of the marketing was male Corrin focused. Anyway, what about the game itself? Let's start with everything that is retained from Awakening. Different hair, different faces, different voices, different gendered kanas, and different available classes, although the number of these is significantly lower than in Awakening. Male Corrin can exclusively have the secondary class Monk, while female Corrin has access to Shrine Maiden. That's it as far as base classes goes, but the DLC adds a few more. Witch for female, Ballistician for male. But then we have not even mentioned arguably the most important difference between male and female Robin, their retainer. Felicia or Jacob either join super early on or significantly later depending on which gender your Corrin is, and that is probably the most impactful effect gender has had so far. Classes and supports are nice and all, but this is an entirely different unit you can get depending on which gender you choose. A whole new set of supports, a whole new fighter to get access to. Now, it's not like you never get the other one, but the difference in join time is definitely significant. Before we move on to the Switch, a little fact about Fire Emblem Heroes and its avatar, Corrin. Nowadays, you can customize your Corrin, making both genders available in the end, sort of. But originally, Corrin was specifically designed to not really have a gender, and it didn't ask you either. The exception was in countries where gender is grammatically required, such as in German, which does as such technically have gender differences for Corrin, albeit only super minor tech stuff. Okay, time for Free Houses, where the customization of the avatar Byleth was significantly stripped down. No more different faces, no more different hairstyles, and even the different voices were toned down, as Byleth speaks significantly less than Robin and Corrin did. There are however more classes exclusive again. Male Byleth can become Brawler, Dark Mage, Grappler, Dark Bishop, War Monk, War Master, and Hero, while female Byleth has exclusive access to War Priest, Pegasus Knight, Dark Flyer, Valkyrie, Gramarye, and Falcon Knight. That's 7 male exclusive classes to females 6, and yet, obvious out-of-game reasons notwithstanding, female Byleth is undoubtedly the better option to choose in Free Houses. Sure, she has a class less, but Byleth is at their best as Enlightened one anyway, so this all doesn't matter. And the other benefits female Byleth has are not small at all. Because Sylvain thinks with his lance, female Byleth can automatically recruit him into her house without any issues whatsoever, something male Byleth has no equivalent to. Female Byleth also has more available S supports, and crucially can S support all 3 house leaders, while Byleth can only S support 1. It's pretty strange in hindsight, isn't it? Here's this character you're clearly meant to deeply care about by the end, but now please find another unit to S-support male Byleth. I mean, Claude already dances with Byleth at the ball regardless of gender. You'd think he'd be romantically interested in both Byleths pretty equally. It's not like he's truly head over heels for female Byleth to begin with, but that's a whole nother story. Before we end up at Engage, we make one more little pit stop at Warriors Free Hopes, which actually lets you pick not just Shez's gender, but also Byleth's gender, despite them definitely not being the avatar in this game. Not that it really matters though, Free Hopes has no romance or anything, so it's really only for vibes and classes of course, because the gender exclusive classes return from Free Houses. Since this is a Warriors game, the classes themselves don't really matter, it's more about the skills gained here, and while I'm hardly a good enough Warriors player to comment on this myself, from what my research shows, male Shez is believed to have the better skills overall. If anyone who knows why feels up for explaining though, the comments are all yours. And finally, we have Engage. And this will be a very short segment because despite male and female Alear having a pretty different look, I'd argue more so than any avatar since Kris, in-game there is very little difference between them. All characters can be supported by both Alears, there are no exclusive units or anything, and there is only one gender-locked class, being Pegasus Knight for women. And that doesn't really matter much anyway, since you're most likely gonna want to keep Alear a dragon child. It leaves really only the costumes exclusive, with female Alear having the pretty unique ability to have a ponytail to help with the circus that is her hair, and the voice actors, although I think both do a great job. So finally, after 15 years, we have the very first Fire Emblem where this decision truly does not matter. Let's see what direction Fortune's Weave goes into, if there's even an avatar to begin with. What gender do you usually pick when playing Fire Emblem? Or do you switch depending on the game? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all my future Fire Emblem content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.